So we're at Beacon Farm in Purata. It's one of our 13 dairy farms in central Canterbury, running just a bit over 1,000 cows. I think the findings, whilst, as you say, they're interim, or the kind of first year, modelled through, I think we've now got 3 years of results, or to be modelled. I think they're important for the whole agricultural industry, and what it's showing reasonably positively is that there's a good contribution from moving to irrigated pasture in relation to building up soil carbon, which is good news for anyone in agriculture. The findings that we've seen or had John present to us to date probably haven't changed the way we've operated. Perhaps they've given us some food for thought. What it perhaps has highlighted to us is with the grazing management and the irrigation applications, that was probably the biggest take-home message out of what he was able to present to us earlier this year. It's something that you can influence and change more readily. What we're finding with perhaps the findings out of the carbon emissions or aggregations is that is a more natural process that perhaps we can't influence within our current farm system as readily as perhaps some of our other practices on farm. My recollection of how Purata got involved probably 4 years ago or 5 years ago when our discussion started was actually through an ex-employee of Landcare, a business development manager there who we had some dual connections, and so we had a couple of meetings and they came out and they were really looking for just a very normal day-to-day run farm where they could test their science rather than a very made-up kind of research farm environment.
So what do these initial results tell us in terms of the long term? Well, they suggest that if the system continues to gain carbon, then the management of this farm is good for the soil. In other words, it's helping to build up concentrations of soil carbon. We certainly cannot be certain about that yet because we have to work for a number of years in order to show what's happening to the carbon. Is it being retained in the system or is it being lost from the system? But the early indications are it's being held in the system. If the management system that's in place can be used, we can demonstrate it's not only increasing production, it's also using water efficiently and it's retaining nutrients with no loss of soil carbon, then that is an enormous positive story for the dairy industry in New Zealand, that the environmental impacts are not as drastic as those which were originally anticipated.